They told us everything about the Colosseum, about the gladiators, the emperors, the roaring crowds, but they never mentioned what lies underneath. And maybe that's not an accident, because below the blood-stained arena, beneath the tourist routes and museum lights, there's something that was never meant to be found. A sealed chamber, forgotten by time, hidden from history, and locked from the outside. In 2021, during a routine restoration of the lower hypogeum, a construction crew uncovered a collapsed corridor. It wasn't on any blueprint. It wasn't part of the official excavation plans. At first, they thought it was just another access tunnel. But as they cleared the rubble, they found a narrow staircase carved into volcanic rock, descending far deeper than expected. The air turned cold, the light grew dimmer, and at the bottom of that descent, they found the door. It wasn't made of wood. It wasn't even stone. It was bronze, heavy, ancient, bolted from the outside. Above the frame, nearly erased by centuries of dust and decay, a phrase in Latin was barely visible. Vox non revertitur. The voice will not return. No one has ever explained what that meant. What voice? Whose voice? And why was it silenced? The workers were told to stop immediately. Within 48 hours, the passage was resealed by order of the Italian Ministry of Culture. The area was fenced off. No public announcement, no official report. But one thing escaped: a single photograph leaked by a member of the crew. His name has never been released. He's never been seen or heard from again. The image was uploaded briefly to an underground archaeology forum. It showed the bronze door covered in corroded marks. Along its edges, deep scratches, wide and long, almost like claw marks. From the inside, and near the base of the door, scattered in the dust, were bones, some clearly human, others less certain. That's when the theories began. Some believe the room was used as a secret execution chamber, not for gladiators, not for criminals sentenced by the courts, but for those condemned in secret, traitors, enemies of the empire, or people Rome wanted to erase without a trace. Others believe the chamber is older than the Colosseum itself, that it was discovered during construction in the 1st century AD and simply hidden, not destroyed, not documented, just sealed, out of fear, because even the Romans feared what was inside. In 1722, a sketch was discovered inside the Vatican's secret archives. It depicted the subterranean layout of the Colosseum. In one corner of the drawing, where the modern structure ends, a single black square had been marked. Beside it, written in careful Latin, "Non patefacere," do not open. Why would the Vatican be mapping forbidden chambers under a pagan ruin? And why would they warn against opening it? The chamber was forgotten for centuries, until that brief moment in 2021. Then almost immediately everything was silenced again. The area is now under constant surveillance. Officially, it's marked as unstable, but those who've tried to access it know otherwise. One amateur historian, posing as an architecture student, claimed he managed to descend to the sealed corridor at night using outdated schematics and blind luck. He didn't make it to the door, but he said the moment he passed into the corridor, the air changed. His flashlight flickered, his camera malfunctioned, and the sound, he said, was wrong. He described it as pressure, not a sound you hear, but one you feel. Like something was breathing behind the stone. And then there are the bones. Fragments found near the corridor entrance were quietly analyzed before the project was shut down. Carbon dating placed some remains in the early 2nd century. Others were from the 4th. That's nearly 300 years after the games were supposed to have stopped. One skull had no trauma, no blade, no blunt force, just shattered jawbones, imploded inward, as if the person died screaming, without making a sound. And one skeleton belonged to a child, found with arms crossed over its chest, clutching a bronze medallion carved with a serpent wrapped around a cross. What was a child doing near this chamber? Who brought them there? And why are none of these questions being asked by the authorities? The more you investigate, the clearer it becomes. Rome wants this forgotten. The Vatican wants it buried. And the silence is no coincidence, because some rooms aren't closed to protect us from what's inside. They're sealed to protect it from us. And what's behind that door might still be alive. There's a reason the chamber beneath the Colosseum was sealed from the outside. And it's not just about what died there, it's about what was left behind. After the photo leaked in 2021, showing the bronze door and the claw marks etched into the inner frame, several historians began digging deeper into the Colosseum's undocumented past. One name kept appearing, a forgotten Roman architect named Tiberius Severus, listed only in scattered scroll fragments from the late 1st century. What made Tiberius different wasn't his designs. It was what he tried to warn the empire about. One surviving letter, now archived in a private collection in Naples, reads, "I was instructed to wall over the descent, not to map it, not to speak of it. They said the stone below did not sleep." That letter was dated 78 AD, 4 years before the Colosseum officially opened. So what did they build the arena on top of? And why did a trained Roman architect, someone trusted by emperors, refuse to document part of the foundation? There's a theory known among underground historians as the hollow vein hypothesis. It suggests that Rome was built over a naturally occurring cavern system, one that predated the city and possibly even the Etruscan civilization before it. These caverns, according to scattered records and myths, weren't just empty spaces. They were sites, places of rituals, punishment, sacrifice. One Etruscan tablet discovered in 1892 references the mouth of the god that sleeps and a bronze key that shall never turn. Sound familiar? It should, because the Colosseum's chamber door is bronze and sealed tight. Now let's talk about something most documentaries skip, the disappearances. Since the early 1900s, there have been at least 7 recorded cases of people vanishing in the Colosseum sublevels. Tour guides, archaeologists, maintenance workers, each one reported missing with no clear explanation. And here's what's strange. In 4 of those cases, the final known location was near substructure segment 3A. That segment aligns perfectly with the chamber's estimated coordinates. Coincidence or something worse? In 1997, a German researcher named Lucas Eberhardt published a private paper based on magnetic resonance scans done near the Colosseum S foundations. He wasn't allowed official access, so he used portable equipment positioned outside the site's perimeter. What he found stunned him. There was an electromagnetic anomaly centered exactly where the door is located. It pulsed irregularly, like a heartbeat. When he tried to publish his findings, the paper was rejected. He received anonymous emails warning him to stop. One email simply read, "Restraint is containment." Those words would appear again, years later, in a leaked Vatican memo. Let's go back further. During World War II, the Nazis occupied Rome briefly in 1943. They were obsessed with ancient relics, especially anything tied to power, control, or ritual. One SS officer, Heinrich Voss, documented in a recovered notebook that his unit located a chamber sealed in flame-colored metal beneath the Colosseum. He referred to it as das geflüsternde Grab, the whispering grave. He wrote, "We heard something beyond the metal. It was not wind, it was not water, it was memory itself, bleeding through." Voss died in Berlin under mysterious circumstances 6 months later. His notebook was hidden until 1996. Then there's the acoustic phenomenon. In 2014, a university team studying sound dispersion in Roman architecture placed a directional microphone near the deeper sublevels of the Colosseum. They were testing how noise traveled during ancient games. At first, everything was normal, until 3:17 a.m., a single tone registered, low, sustained, and unnatural. It didn't match any mechanical or geological pattern. Some described it as a subharmonic pulse, something too deep for the human ear to consciously hear, but still felt in the body. The equipment was damaged the next morning, the recording was erased, and the project was quietly shut down. It's not just sound. People who've stood near the sealed corridor report strange symptoms: dizziness, chest pressure, hallucinations of movement in their peripheral vision. A few have even said they felt watched, not in the paranoid sense, but as if something ancient and sentient was aware of them. One archaeologist wrote in her journal, "It's like a presence waiting behind the bronze, not angry, not sad, just awake." She never returned to the site. There's another clue most people missed. In 2003, a classified internal memo from the Vatican leaked online. It mentioned Flavian Anomaly 3A, that the Colosseum structure code, and gave only 3 instructions. Do not authorize excavation. Preserve current seal. Restraint is containment. The memo was real. The Vatican never commented. But those same words keep appearing. Now ask yourself this: why are 3 institutions, the Vatican, the Italian government, and international researchers, all aligned to ignore this chamber? Why no official study? Why seal something and never open it? Unless it's not about archaeology, unless it's about keeping something in. Because maybe what's behind that door isn't just a room. Maybe it's a memory, a curse, a prison, and the key was never lost, it was buried. In the dark corners of Roman history, there's one name that keeps surfacing: not Caesar, not Nero, not even the emperors who watched the games, but Mithras, a god of shadows, of sacrifice, of rebirth through blood. The cult of Mithras was one of ancient Rome's most secretive and powerful underground religions. It thrived in darkness, literally. All Mithraic temples were built underground, hidden, isolated, always beneath the surface. And here's the terrifying part: several of those temples were located directly beneath Rome's major public structures, including the Colosseum. In 1926, while renovating nearby sewer lines, workers discovered what they believed was a forgotten wine cellar, but what they found was something else entirely: a Mithraeum, a chamber carved in stone, with a central altar and a single fresco still visible, depicting Mithras slaying a bull while surrounded by masked figures holding blades. The location: less than 100 meters from the Colosseum's outer wall. And based on the orientation and structure, some believe it wasn't the only one. A second Mithraeum may still be sealed under the Colosseum itself, possibly behind the bronze door. Why would that matter? Because Mithraic rituals weren't symbolic, they were bloody. Participants wore animal masks, they operated in total secrecy, and most chilling of all, their highest initiation involved a ritual death and rebirth. Some scholars now believe the sealed chamber was used not for executions, but for sacrifice, not by the Roman Empire, but by something older, deeper, and far more hidden. Inside the leaked photo from 2021, the one showing the bronze door, researchers noticed something odd: a faint, circular emblem scorched into the metal. It wasn't Roman, it wasn't Christian, it was Mithraic. A serpent coiled around a sunburst, the same symbol found carved into the medallion clutched by the child skeleton outside the chamber. What was that child doing there? Was it coincidence, or was the child part of a rite? We may never know, but the pieces are starting to connect. A now lost Roman text titled De Tenebris Flamma, on the flame of darkness, described a deep place where blood must seal the earth or the earth will speak. Most dismissed it as metaphor, a cautionary tale. But what if it was literal? What if Rome wasn't just sealing away a chamber, but feeding it? And this isn't just ancient paranoia. In 1954, a team of Jesuit scholars working under Vatican sanction compiled a private dossier titled Project Mithras. The entire report is classified, but one page leaked in 2009. It described a location beneath the Colosseum marked as Site 9, Voice Anomaly, and recommended zero excavation due to unpredictable influence on audio cognition and spiritual perception. That line alone raises serious questions because it suggests that the chamber didn't just affect machinery, it affected people, their thoughts, their emotions, their perception of reality itself. And then there's the final unexplainable detail. In 2022, a group of tourists reported hearing something inside the Colosseum while standing near the edge of the lower hypogeum. They said it sounded like chanting. But no tour group was scheduled, no audio equipment was running. One of the tourists, an audio technician, managed to record a few seconds of the sound. It's been analyzed. It doesn't match any known language. It has rhythm, tone, structure, but no origin, and it ends with a single inhuman breath, drawn inward as if something massive exhaled silence into stone. So what is this chamber? A burial vault? A forgotten cult temple? A sealed prison for something the Empire couldn't control? We've looked at the symbols, the rituals, the bones, the warnings. All signs point to a single conclusion. This wasn't just an execution room. It was a containment zone, a place where death was offered to buy silence. And the most terrifying part? No one knows if the rituals stopped because they were finished or because they failed. Rome has many layers, streets over temples, temples over tombs, tombs over whispers, and beneath them all, the bronze door still waits, not broken, not forgotten, just waiting for someone to listen. They thought it was sealed forever, a door locked in bronze, buried under stone, hidden beneath centuries of history and silence. But in recent years, strange things have begun to surface. In 2022, a maintenance drone scanning the substructure of the Colosseum lost contact for 7 seconds while flying near the coordinates of the sealed chamber. When the footage was retrieved, one frame captured something, blurry, tall, still, standing just beyond the threshold of the corridor. It was gone in the next frame, but those who saw it said it looked too human to be dismissed and too wrong to be ignored. Not long after, minor tremors began to register beneath the Colosseum. They weren't felt on the surface, but seismic monitors recorded rhythmic pulses centered exactly where the chamber lies. These weren't tectonic. They had no geological source. Some experts said it resembled a heartbeat, too slow to be natural, too regular to be coincidence. In response, the Italian Ministry of Culture authorized emergency reinforcements, concrete, steel, industrial sealants normally used in nuclear containment sites. They claimed it was a precaution, but offered no technical explanation. No structural damage was ever documented in that area. Around the same time, a restricted file began circulating online, allegedly from within the Vatican. It referenced something called Protocol 9, a classified directive designed to monitor ancient containment zones across Europe, places where archaeological evidence suggested spiritual, psychological, or physical disturbances that could not be explained by science alone. One of those locations, marked only as Site 9, matched the internal coordinates of the Colosseum's sealed chamber. The file referred to it not as a room, or a temple, or a vault. It was labeled as a conscious threshold. In 2023, a small group of tourists standing near the lower eastern hypogeum reported hearing a low, sustained sound, like chanting. No tour guide was speaking, no sound system was active. When they asked what it was, the staff told them that section was closed for safety. When asked again, they were told to move along. So what exactly is behind the door? Every piece of evidence points to something more than just an old execution room. The child skeleton holding the serpent medallion, the Mithraic symbols burned into the metal, the bones showing no signs of violence but shattered jaws as if screaming in silence. The hidden references in Roman texts warning of a voice that should never return, the Vatican's consistent silence, the government's aggressive containment, and the reports of sensations, audio phenomena, and disappearances over the past century. All of it leads to one conclusion: this chamber wasn't meant to be opened, not by accident, not by research, not by time. Because the door isn't just a barrier, it's a warning. The Latin phrase above it, vox non revertitur, doesn't just speak of silence, it commands it. The voice must not return. But what if it already has? Because silence isn't empty, it's waiting. And something beneath the Colosseum is beginning to move again. The symbols say it was a place of sacrifice, not punishment. A place where offerings were made to keep something asleep. A chamber built not for death, but for binding. And if that containment fails, what rises may not be a person, or a god, or a creature. It may be something older, something we have no name for. Something Rome tried to bury beneath the blood of thousands, and now, after centuries, that door is corroding, that pulse is rising, and every new tremor, every missing file, every closed-off section may be the signal that the seal is failing. People visit the Colosseum every day. They walk above the arena. They admire the ruins. They post photos, but none of them know what lies beneath their feet. None of them hear the breath behind the bronze. None of them realize that they are standing above one of the oldest and most carefully hidden secrets in all of human history. And the question we leave you with is this: what if the Colosseum was never built to celebrate Rome as greatness, but to hide its greatest mistake?